Our next speaker is just an all-around great guy. He's Lieutenant Colonel Rick Howard. He served over 20 years in the Air Force, has been such a great friend to us here at Seven Eagle. He runs an organization called GovClose.com. We'll put the link in there and his LinkedIn profile as well in chat. If someone could do that for me, that'd be great. But just an incredible organization that helps specifically military veterans who want to work in the government contract space in that industry. And that could either be working as a consultant, so you have your own business and you're going out and finding your own clients and helping them secure government grants and contracts, or working for a defense contractor as an employee and helping their company secure grants and contracts as well. Rick runs this amazing certification course that anyone can do remotely, and he'll tell you all about it. But I want you guys to hear from him about his journey and his experiences in this space and why he feels it's just a really great career path for someone interested in this stuff. So Rick, thank you, buddy, for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. How long am I on stage here for, Jordy? Let
We'll
me
do
know.
we'll do like let's do like 20 minutes and then we could take questions from the
Yeah,
crew if anyone wants to talk. But and then also when Rick leaves, I invited another guy in named William Taylor. I don't know if he's here yet. William, are you here? Anyway, because he has a role, just the stars sort of aligned the other day where he's like, hey, I'm looking for people to come in and be government contract writers, I guess, for my cybersecurity company. So I thought that that would be a nice segue after Rick is done. So anyway, Rick, tell
awesome.
everyone a little bit about your time in the Air Force and what sort of led you down this path when you got out.
Yeah, absolutely. So first half of my career, I was flying. I was a navigator, flying ISR aircraft like the Rivet Joint and J Stars and whatnot. Then a little halfway through my career or so, my son got sick and we came up to Boston so he could be checked out at the hospitals up here because they specialize in that stuff that he was having problems with, and he's doing great now. But we have an acquisitions base at Hanscom Air Force base where I was stationed, not a flying base. So I switched into the acquisitions career field at that point. And as many on the call probably know, acquisitions is the profession of putting companies on contract for the government. So um, funny, ironically, I remember asking my flight instructor when I was a second lieutenant. I'm like, hey, what kind of jobs are there for navigators after after the Air Force? She's like, Rick, you should have been an acquisitions officer if you wanted to get a good job. Like, navigator, just stay in. But yeah, so I got to work and learn how to put companies on contract for the government and manage those programs. And then when I retired in 2019, it was extremely clear that there was a problem. Small businesses, especially, really struggle selling to the government, but also even the bigs like try to figure out how it's done. It's complex. There's a lot to it, but there's a ton of spending. There's a lot of money behind the government. The U.S. government's the single biggest purchaser of goods and services in the world. Yet less than a quarter of 1% of companies sell to the government, and they buy everything. So we're not just talking about weapon systems and, aircraft. We're talking about office supplies and paying for teachers, accounting services, social media management. If you could think about it, they're probably buying it. Guitars, piano lessons. They buy everything. So um, companies struggle selling to the government. So when I retired, I started a consulting business and did really well, helping companies in this space. There were a few that, there's not a lot of competition there, or at least people that actually understand the government contracting process and can move the needle for a company. And then one of my clients later on also hires me as a full-time account executive, right? So these are high-paying sales jobs essentially for companies. 120, 130 grand a year starting off entry level, and some kids in their 20s with no experience doing anything have landed those. Mine was around 320, and I was running my consulting company full time, and I've seen them go as high as 400 or so a year. But again, sales jobs aren't for everybody, but they come with a commission typically and a salary, and it can do really well. One thing led to another, though. With us, I put training programs together for the companies I was consulting with, And then our social media stuff started taking off. And eventually I built GovClose because what happened, and by the way, anyone can check out my YouTube channel. That's where I'd probably start. It's just called GovClose, GovClosc. We have over 700 videos there. So training, interviews with people coming out of the military, their experience working as consultants and account executives and selling to the government. You can learn a lot there. Um, as more and more military veterans, especially, came into the program, I'm like, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I can train you to sell to the government and that you can like start a business from scratch and sell to the government because that is a long timeline. We're talking 12 to 18 months, and you really need a business and sales, like a history of commercial sales to make that work. Um, but with a few of the people, I was like, look, I can show you how to start a consulting business. I can show you how to get an account executive job like I did. And that's really where the transformation happened. So now GovClose has been in existence for a couple of years now, doing really well. We've put almost 400 people through the program. They're getting great results. And so what we teach here, and this isn't a pitch for GovClose. I'm going to transition this into why this career path, I think, is one of the best areas for anyone with military experience, which is because selling to the government, just by virtue of you being in the military, you understand the service, right? So even if you have no acquisitions experience, you don't understand the process at all, the fact that you speak Army or Air Force or, Navy, and you understand the mission, you understand how to get onto a base. You see, a lot of people underestimate what they're worth. Companies have no idea how to do this stuff. And the fact that you can, like without anything else, is extremely valuable. Now we add to that you have a security clearance or maybe an interim one or one that's dormant, which can be turned on pretty quickly. Then you have whatever specialty you learned on the government side. Like I just got off the phone with a guy in our program. He's a combat controller. He's selling, different type of geospatial pieces of equipment. He started his own consulting business. And so even though he didn't have acquisitions experience, he has a ton of experience in his job. So like companies are like, oh yeah, absolutely. You have instant credibility. They're willing to hire you. And this is very high ticket. Government contracts, go from the hundreds of thousands to the millions or billions of dollars. So, when there's money and a lot of it, and you have a specialty that very few people have, and you can help a company, that you have a straight line from what you can do to helping that company bring in some of that revenue. That's what drives high salaries, and it can drive high consulting fees. And we have the highest, one of the highest that you can have. So I packed a lot in there, right? But essentially, your three paths in government contracting are: if you do have a business, you can sell to the government, and a lot of you will end up being disabled. You can have a service disabled veteran-owned small business. You can work as an account executive for companies, and like I said, you're entry level 120, 130. For anyone that spent any time in the military, I would expect that to be closer to 200 or higher. And then the third is you can start your own consulting business. And, many of the people in our program, including myself, are doing combinations of those things, right? Which I'm a big fan of multiple revenue streams. And for people in the military or retiring, especially, or even separating, when you start adding up your benefits, if you have a retirement check, if you have a disability check, and you have multiple clients paying you consulting revenue, and you might have an account executive job that's paying you a lot that you can do remotely from your basement, you know, it's not for everybody, but it is a career path worth considering. So.
Can you talk, Rick? Thank you for giving them that quick intro. Can you talk a little bit about your course and why, if someone is serious about going down this path, why would that be a good entry
Yeah.
into this world?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're doing two things in our program. One is we're showing you how to sell to the government. And we're eliminating the noise, right? So there's one thing that we're talking about, an industry that has been regulated since the birth of the country, right? So there's literally thousands of pages of law and policy, federal acquisitions regulations that dictate how the government buys. And this is what confuses the hell out of companies, right? So the government can't just buy something like you and I can. So the first part of our program is just teaching you how to sell to the government, and really from any industry. So the core of my philosophy on this is The one advantage, despite the complexities and the long timelines, the one advantage any company has selling to the government is that all of the federal spending is public, right? So everything. So there's 297 pieces of information on every contract the government puts out there. So if you're selling accounting services, what we spend a lot of time on in the program is, all right, we're going to go look at the public data. And so now for that company that you're going to work with or work for, I can go back and I can say, all right, the government spends $7.2 billion on this service that you provide. But you're a small business. And so we can go back and, hey, of that 7.2 billion, 2.7 billion goes to small businesses. And these are the three agencies that buy what you sell. But not only the three agencies, these are the three sub agencies and offices. So it's actually office 1, 2, 3, 4 at Randolph Air Force Base in Texas, and this Army Corps of Engineering office in Southern California that is buying your, whatever the service is, construction or, roofing. And we can go real specific. We could see how competitive it is. We could see the number of offers coming in per solicitation. We basically can reverse engineer every single step a company has to take in order to sell to the government. And so we spend a lot of time on that in the this is how we sell to the government part. And we also show like this is how you find leads. This is how we build a pipeline. And it just so happens that piece that we're teaching is the first consulting product that many of them sell. It's also what gets them jobs. I had one kid, a second lieutenant in the Army National Guard, walk in and beat out 40 people for a job at Honeywell. So he's a Honeywell account executive now, making more than he ever did, because he was able to walk in there and nobody else could. They're like, hey, I know people, I go to these conferences, but what you need to be able to do is say, hey, it's these three offices, and they're using the NASA SOUP contract vehicle, which your company doesn't have because I reviewed all your contracting data. And the average contract value is 3.7 million, but your average contract value is 1.2, so you're doing less. And so X, Y, so you can give them all of those data points. And so, we're teaching you the products to sell as a consultant, how to sell to the government. And then once we get to the end of like advanced strategies, I certify everyone personally, right? So everyone that goes through. And then depending on your path, right? So some are going after that job, others are consulting. Then we move people into the war room, right? So we do weekly coaching, but the war room is all implementation. And that's really one of the big differences here. So like you can, as everyone knows, you can go through a slide deck and try to learn something, but you have to actually do it in order to, realize success. So, and that's where, like I said, I was just got off the phone with one of our students. Once we're implementing and I work with them, sometimes you just have to tweak a couple things like, hey, if I want to get clients, I got to, build a list and target them and get them on sales calls. So the back half of our program is all training on this is how you build a consulting business. This is how we build a social media profile that will attract clients. This is how we actually do email outreach to clients cold. This is how we schedule a call. This is how we price our products. This is how we, write our proposal. I give everyone a recommendation. So if they're going for a job, they can use that. I help them with their resumes. So yeah, that's the program. It's a year long. So I call it a professional development program. It's not cheap, but like I said, we have a lot of people in there and they're getting results. So
And it's such a lucrative field too. If somebody is on and has a lot of ambition financially and wants a little bit of that flexibility in your schedule to be at home after having served, it's a really great path. What percentage roughly of your students who go through the course choose to be like account execs versus saying, hey, I want to be a consultant and get my own clients?
um, I have a lot that start off thinking they want to be a company that sells to the government. Almost all of them decide they want to be consultants by the time I
They're
get
done
through
with
with
that.
them.
Yeah.
But they're looking at doing different things, right? The smallest percentage is actually the account executive piece and going for those salary positions. But one of the things that I like about consulting and that a lot of people don't realize is, we're talking with the CEOs of companies when we're selling consulting services, especially when we're talking like medium-sized company, like 20, $30 million a year or less. Just by virtue of the fact that you're dealing with that CEO, you're being treated more as an equal, and all these interesting deals kind of come from that, right? So when I worked as account executive, I wasn't looking for a job, but I worked for a larger company for 6 months as a consultant, and then they just offered it to me, right? Like, hey,
Hmm.
you can do both. Or I had a Wall Street investor make me the CEO of his holding company. He owns like 50 different companies. So like, but these are the type of things that come from consulting. You're looked at more as an equal. You're taken a little bit more seriously, and provided you're doing good work, I have others that are, through consulting, they form teaming arrangements with companies and they win their first government contracts that way,
Yeah.
or they get the account executive job. So I mean, it can lead to a lot of cool and interesting things.
Yeah. We just hired one of your students, Brandy Foster, who has been unbelievably amazing. And some of the people I think on the call were in sessions with her.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's
Brandy's.
just so cool to work alongside someone who's such a professional and really understands the business and a great teacher. And
Yeah,
to me, it looks like such a cool career path. And I would love more people to at least consider it and watch some of his videos. Like you said, on YouTube, just look up GovClose and you'll see all the videos. You'll get a good feel for what that space is like. And I would imagine even Rick, people who go through the course or do this as a career path, it opens up doors, like you said, to so many something else might come your way because
yeah.
you're working alongside the leaders of industry.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up Brandy because, I mean, think about government contracting this is what I tell companies, but it's for consultants. It's like we're talking about like not just one entity. We're talking about like 300,000 different offices that are buying everything, right? So
Yeah,
the jobs available and the consulting niches available. We're not just talking about sales, although that's what I that's what I teach. But there are tons of niches within this, right? So Brandy is a proposal and grant writer, for instance. That's what she does. She doesn't help companies sell anything. She just writes the proposal. She focuses on her one thing and gets paid well for it.
yeah,
There are others that have a cybersecurity background and will help companies with things like CMMC and FedRAMP.
yeah.
If you have an accounting background or a logistics background, I mean, there's lots of different aspects to sell into the
Yeah.
government.
And
So
you know what I like too is that because a lot of the people in our academy, they want to pivot, right? They've been doing something
yeah,
for 5, 10, 20 years, and they're like, maybe I want to try something else. But this is a way to do something different, but take all that skill and those experiences and now be an expert in a new field that could be extremely lucrative. So that's cool. Corbin, go ahead, buddy.
Hey, so thanks for coming out this afternoon and speaking with us. I'm really interested in this, but uh, the first thing that comes to mind when I hear consultants, is places like Deloitte and
mhm,
stuff like that. And and I love that you mentioned that you have this exposure to, the higher ups in these organizations and get to peek behind the curtain. But I imagine that that comes with a bit of a cost in kind of the work-life balance of it all. And that's what you so often hear from people at places like Deloitte
mhm.
and the other big firms is that you burn out very quickly, but you're going to make a ton of money before you burn out. So just
Yeah.
wanted to hear your thoughts on that and what your perspective is.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because I am not talking about working for like Deloitte or McKinsey. Like you're looking at my consulting office right now, and it's in the man cave, right? And my kids are coming home from school. I take my son to school every day. I mean, as far as work-life balance, I mean, I make my own schedule. So, but if you're a business owner, you're always also kind of on, right? So I run my own freelance consulting practice. And so the way that actually looks as a solo consultant, this is my experience. Everyone has a different experience, but in government contracting, and this is what we teach, you're selling. So first of all, you're always selling because you are running your own business, right? You have no sales, you have no business. But it's not like something like real estate or something that's like hyper competitive and like you have to. This is something where you can have a very specific niche. So what you're doing, what the people in our program are doing, they're selling initial projects, usually from 5 to 10 grand, right? And those initial projects it's a way for a company to try you out. This is B2B, right? And I do all the work remotely, as do they. I have some clients that live in Germany, or sorry, students rather. Others live in the Philippines. They live all over the country. Um, Now you sell those. For me, 3 out of every 5 of those initial projects turn into a client that's going to pay me a monthly stipend. So at least with the sales piece with BD, companies, this is a 12 to 18 month process. So your consulting contracts usually last a lot longer than other freelance consulting areas. The average consulting contract lasts for about 3 months. I've had some last for years, and then I have clients that are coming back all the time. But just talking about like work-life balance, for me as a freelance consultant, I can handle about 5 clients that are paying me monthly, right? And that's usually between 5 and 10 grand a month, right? So if it's, I don't want to do public math here, but so if I had what 5 clients that are paying me seven, that's what 35 grand a month, 35 grand a month, and then I'm selling 1 to 2 roadmaps on top of that. That's usually what I'm selling. I sell an assessment, a strategy, as my foot in the door. So if I'm selling 1 or 2 of those a month, now it's another 5 to 10 grand, depending on, right? So I can do that by myself with a virtual assistant. But now you're capped off, right? So like for me, 400 or 500 grand a year, once you have your systems running, you can keep that and have your work-life balance and you're not working around the clock. Now, if you want to scale beyond that, I think that's where you have to like have that meeting with you and your spouse and your kids, right? Because for me, facing what am I going to do to grow, I had to start thinking about, do I want to build a agency where I have people where I'm hiring other people that were acquisitions officers or other people from the military, and I'm paying them salaries, or if I'm paying them 1099. So there's a lot of different ways to run and scale a consulting practice from there. But as far as the freelance piece, yeah, no Deloitte, none of that. You're in charge of your schedule. You work from home. You kind of work it out.
That is awesome. That's great. Great question. Good answer. So I put Rick's LinkedIn in the chat, and reach out to him if you're intrigued by this, man. I have nothing but respect for what he does and how many vets he helps. And I really like this industry for a lot of you guys, because I think it's one you can jump into quickly with the training.
Yeah.
Chris, go ahead. Do you have one more question for Rick before we let him go?
Yeah, just one. Hey, Rick.
Hey, what's up,
So I
man?
looked at the site based on your LinkedIn, and it said there are about a year's worth of training to get certification. Are there any courses offered that last for a couple of months for those looking to transition within the time frame they're separating?
Yeah. So just to clarify, so our program is a year long, but it's not a year long of training. So like I've had guys get through the training piece in 30 days. I like to see people get through in 60 to 90 days because this is how you settle the government piece. And then I want to get them to, hey, I am either trying to get that job or I'm starting my consulting business as fast as possible. So as fast as you can learn the material and I can get you going, because that's how you really know. You don't know that you can do it until you start closing clients or you get that job, right? So I try to push people into execution. And so a lot of most of that year is execution and just having a place to go. We have, is over half of the people in the program are military from doing just about everything. And then we have a lot of government people, but it's a rich place for resources because whether you're working for a company or a client, now you have a place to go and you can talk to, the
Community,
06
yeah.
that ran DCMA in overseas, or you can talk to the guy that was doing cybersecurity for the Army, and that can help you with your client, right? So there's a lot of resources there, and yes, it's not a year of training, but there's also some other programs out there, I'm sure, like
Yeah, because many of us are looking to get certified in a wide variety of professions.
say that again.
Many of us are looking for certification in a wide variety of professions.
And
Do you mean you're looking to get one person looking for lots of certifications? Or do you mean like the individuals are looking for certifications in different areas?
Basically individual certifications.
Okay.
keep them focused on what you want to do. Don't.
Well, that's my thing is like, I would tell you, find one certification, like find something that you can make some money at, that you can stand doing, or that you want to do, focus on that. Like,
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I've had people get like, they spend so much time getting like the PMP certifications and this cybersecurity. So I'm like, just pick one, man, like, and then they end up in my program and they don't need any of them to
Yeah.
do what they're
Solid
doing. So,
advice.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Nick, go ahead. Last question.
Hey, just real quick. First, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Took a lot of notes. I'm actually starting my own entrepreneur journey and looking at consulting. I'm a huge cybersecurity AI enthusiast, and I'm looking at doing an AI enablement assessment for companies. And I've been peeling back the onion. I've built out fleets to basically streamline my process. I've messed with Go High Level. I've been in the weeds of things.
Nice,
I
nice.
say all that to say, well, I have you and I have your ear. I want to just ask you a quick question: is can you? I mean, and you're like, well, it really all depends. But for assessments, is that something that I could charge for just to run like an audit, if you will, on companies?
Mhm.
My initial thought was to do free assessments to get my name out there and be like, hey, look, I'm doing these free assessments. Basically, put my name in the yard if like I was doing like roof repairs or whatever, right? So I get my name out there by doing a bunch of free assessments, and at some point, would I be able to charge for those, or is just always like that would be like my way to bring people in? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it does depend, right? The way I decide if on what I'm selling a company, and I probably tried like 1,000 different offers, right? But the one thing is, does your offer, whether it's an assessment or an audit or a research piece, does it help them make more money? Right? Like, hey, like a lot of, especially like military, we have a lot of different skill sets, right? Like I've seen a lot of people fail trying to sell something like a leadership assessment or morale assessment or AI is a little bit different, right? But so you want to be able to link what you're doing to that company. More direct what you're doing can help that company make more money. So if I do a strategy for a company on how to go to market in the federal government, not only is it a direct link to a shitload of money, but I can put an exact number on it, right? Like what you're selling on average, companies make $3.5 million in this bucket, 7.9 this, and 12, and it's all based on data. And they can't argue with me because it's all right there. For your AI assessment, right? What are you trying to help them do, right? So if you said to me, on the other hand, I'm going to do a CMMC assessment for companies. I'm going to help them do their self-assessment for what is it called? SPRS. Like right now, CMMC is what every company selling to the DoD, DOW is going to need. And it is a huge market and you could make a ton of money. And yeah, you could absolutely sell. In fact, I had one client, and then I'll stop talking here, Jordy. I had one client, he just came back to me, right? Like, I would do certain projects for him. It was like 9 months ago. He's like, hey, Rick, I'm on contract with the Navy, but they won't give me a $900,000 delivery order because I haven't done the cybersecurity self-assessment for CMMC. It's mandatory now. It wasn't then. That was a $18,000 deal that took me 20 minutes on the phone with him because, hey, he has $900,000 that he can't get until this is done, right? And so that's what you gotta do. You just gotta figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the sales end of this. Well, that's great. What you guys will learn with him. Rick, thank you so much. This was great. I
Yep.
always love having you on, and because I think a lot of people are interested in this field.
Oh, hey, by the way, if anybody's
yeah.
in Texas, we have a live event on the 25th of March in Houston, Texas.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Yep.
send me that link. I'll push it out we do have a lot of folks here in tech. So
Awesome. Sounds good.
but
It's great
thank
to
you
meet
so
everyone.
much. Appreciate you so much coming on. All right.